have archaeologists finally uncovered one of the most infamous cities in human history. For thousands of years, the story of Sodom has stood at the center of one of the greatest debates between faith, history, and archaeology. According to the book of Genesis, it was a prosperous city destroyed in a single catastrophic event. Fire fell from the heavens. The land was devastated. Entire civilizations disappeared. For believers, it was divine judgment. For skeptics, it was simply an ancient legend. But what if both history and science have preserved clues that point to a real event? In recent years, remarkable archaeological discoveries have reignited this ancient mystery, forcing historians and scientists to ask a question that many thought would never have an answer. Could the legendary city of Sodom have actually been found? The biblical story begins in the fertile plains near the Dead Sea. Genesis describes Sodom and its neighboring city, Gomorrah, as wealthy and influential centers surrounded by fertile land. Before destruction arrived, the region was compared to the garden of the Lord, a place capable of supporting prosperous communities and flourishing agriculture. Its strategic location made it an important commercial center connecting different kingdoms throughout the ancient Near East. Merchants crossed its roads, livestock grazed across its valleys, and trade brought wealth to its inhabitants. Yet beneath this prosperity, the biblical narrative paints a much darker picture. Violence, injustice, corruption, and moral decay had become deeply rooted in these cities. According to Genesis, the outcry against Sodom had become so great that God decided to investigate personally. One of the most fascinating conversations in the Bible follows. Abraham pleads with God, asking whether the city would be spared if righteous people could still be found within its walls. 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, finally 10. Each time God agrees that if enough righteous people exist, the city will be spared. But according to the account, not even 10 righteous individuals could be found. Only Lot and his family received a final warning. They were instructed to leave immediately without looking back. As dawn approached, the catastrophe began. Genesis describes fire and burning sulfur raining down from heaven. Buildings collapsed. Flames consumed the land. Thick smoke rose into the sky like the smoke from a giant furnace. Lot's wife looked back despite the warning and, according to the narrative, instantly became a pillar of salt. Whether interpreted literally or symbolically, the destruction of Sodom became one of the most unforgettable stories in biblical history. For centuries, historians debated whether Sodom had ever existed. Some believed the story was purely symbolic, created to illustrate moral lessons rather than describe historical events. Others argued that the account preserved the memory of a real catastrophe, whose details had become intertwined with religious tradition over thousands of years. Ancient Greek and Roman writers mentioned strange ruins near the Dead Sea. Travelers reported barren landscapes where almost nothing grew. Some described unusual salt formations, strange deposits of bitumen rising from the ground, and evidence of ancient destruction. Yet, none could identify the exact location of the lost city. Archaeologists spent decades searching the southern shores of the Dead Sea. Sites such as Bab-ed-Dra and Numeira were proposed as possible candidates. Each discovery generated headlines. Each was celebrated by some researchers as the long-lost Sodom. Yet over time, the evidence failed to convince most specialists. The dates did not always match. The settlements were often smaller than expected. The archaeological evidence simply remained inconclusive. Then, attention shifted north, toward a site in modern-day Jordan known as el-Hammam. At first, it appeared to be another Bronze Age settlement, among many others scattered throughout the Jordan Valley. But as excavations continued, archaeologists realized they had uncovered one of the largest cities from its period in the entire region. Massive defensive walls surrounded the city. Monumental gateways protected its entrances. Administrative buildings overlooked residential districts filled with evidence of organized urban life. Storage facilities suggested advanced agriculture capable of supporting thousands of inhabitants. Imported goods demonstrated active trade with neighboring civilizations. Everything indicated that el-Hammam had once been a powerful regional center. Then researchers reached the destruction layer. What they discovered immediately attracted worldwide attention. Entire sections of the city appeared to have been destroyed almost instantaneously. Thick walls had collapsed outward with tremendous force. Thousands of mud bricks showed signs of exposure to temperatures far higher than those normally produced by accidental fires. Pottery fragments displayed partially melted surfaces. Some minerals appeared to have been altered by intense heat. Large quantities of ash covered significant portions of the ancient settlement. Human remains were found beneath collapsed structures, suggesting many inhabitants had no opportunity to escape. Even more surprising, scientists detected unusually high concentrations of salt spread across the surrounding agricultural land. According to several researchers, such contamination could have made farming nearly impossible for generations. The obvious question soon emerged: what could possibly have caused such extraordinary destruction? Ancient warfare could explain burned buildings, broken walls, and abandoned cities. But producing temperatures capable of partially melting construction materials required something far more extreme. This is where one of the most controversial scientific theories entered the discussion. A team of researchers proposed that el-Hammam had not been destroyed by an invading army, but by a massive cosmic airburst. According to this hypothesis, a large space rock entered Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed and exploded several kilometers above the city before reaching the ground. The explosion would have released energy comparable to a powerful nuclear detonation, generating temperatures of several thousand degrees and shock waves capable of flattening buildings almost instantly. If such an event occurred, witnesses would have seen an enormous fireball descending from the sky, followed by devastating heat, deafening explosions, and a massive column of smoke rising above the valley. Many researchers believe that this hypothesis could explain several unusual discoveries made at the site. Tiny particles consistent with extreme heat have been identified within the destruction layer. Some materials appear to have been exposed to temperatures far beyond those normally generated by fires in the ancient world. Researchers have also reported evidence suggesting that the blast wave traveled across the city with enormous force, collapsing walls and instantly destroying buildings. If correct, the event would have been one of the most devastating natural disasters ever witnessed by Bronze Age civilizations. Almost immediately, comparisons with the biblical account began to appear. Fire from heaven, a city destroyed in moments, smoke rising into the sky, agricultural land rendered unusable. To many observers, the similarities seemed impossible to ignore. However, this is where the story becomes far more complicated. Not all archaeologists agree that Tall el-Hammam is the biblical Sodom. Several respected scholars argue that although the city undoubtedly experienced a catastrophic destruction, connecting it directly to the book of Genesis goes far beyond what the available evidence can prove. One of the main criticisms concerns chronology. Dating ancient settlements is an extraordinarily complex process. Different methods can produce slightly different timelines, and even small differences of a few centuries become significant when comparing archaeological evidence with biblical narratives. Other researchers question whether Tall el-Hammam occupied the geographical location described in Genesis. The biblical text contains several geographical references that remain open to interpretation. Some scholars continue to favor sites located closer to the southern shores of the Dead Sea, while others believe the exact location may never be identified with certainty. There is also debate regarding the destruction itself. Although the airburst hypothesis has attracted considerable attention, not every scientist accepts it as the most likely explanation. Some suggest that earthquakes, fires, warfare, or a combination of multiple disasters could account for at least part of the archaeological evidence. Science advances through debate, and extraordinary claims always require extraordinary evidence. This disagreement does not mean the discoveries lack importance. Quite the opposite. Tall el-Hammam has become one of the most intensely studied archaeological sites in the Near East precisely because it raises difficult questions that researchers continue to investigate. Interestingly, the region surrounding the Dead Sea has long been known for its unique geological activity. It sits near the Dead Sea Transform Fault, one of the most significant tectonic boundaries in the Middle East. Throughout history, powerful earthquakes have repeatedly struck the area, reshaping the landscape and destroying ancient settlements. Large natural deposits of sulfur, asphalt, and salt are also found throughout the region, contributing to the unusual appearance that has fascinated travelers for thousands of years. Whether these natural features influence the biblical narrative remains an open question. History often preserves memories of real events through stories passed from one generation to another. Over centuries, details can become simplified, expanded, or interpreted through religious traditions. Many historians believe that ancient texts frequently preserve genuine memories of floods, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, droughts, and other catastrophic events, even when the descriptions contain symbolic language. Could the story of Sodom represent the memory of an extraordinary natural disaster witnessed by ancient people? Or was the archaeological catastrophe at Tall el-Hammam simply one of many destroyed cities whose history later became connected with the biblical account? At present, no definitive answer exists, What archaeology has demonstrated beyond doubt is that a major Bronze Age city once flourished in this region before suffering an abrupt and devastating destruction. What remains uncertain is whether that city should be identified as the Sodom described in Genesis. Perhaps future excavations will uncover inscriptions, official records, or additional evidence capable of settling the debate once and for all. Or perhaps Sodom will continue to occupy that fascinating space where history, archaeology, science, and faith intersect without ever completely overlapping. Some mysteries survive precisely because they refuse to provide simple answers, and perhaps that is what makes them so compelling. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy exploring the world's greatest religious mysteries, forgotten civilizations, and archaeological discoveries, subscribe to Divine Code and join us as we continue searching for the truth hidden beneath history itself. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are not the ones we cannot explain. They are the ones we are still trying to understand.